Hey, everybody. Welcome to Chris Anderson Comics. I have a very special guest today, Shawn Crystal. How you doing, man?
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time. You and I have a lot of mutual friends, Dan Panosian, Dave Johnson, those guys.
Nice.
They were sort of my mentors in I'm in Los Angeles, so,
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And
So you've spent a lot of time with those guys.
oh, yeah, lots of time.
Oh,
In fact, I was a
I am
teacher.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
No, I'm
right. I know.
kidding.
I was a teacher, and Dan's kid went to my school.
Oh,
Just
awesome.
totally just because I like helped Dan get his kid into the school, so I was able to like talk to Dan daily for a while, which was cool.
Oh, that's great. Oh, Dan will talk your ear off.
Oh yeah. Um, when I think when I got kind of there was a long time there where I was sort of out of comics, and I got back into it and was like, all right, you know what? This was always the thing that was going to uh I always felt like it was destiny. Like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I knew I was going to be a comic book artist, but I was getting, close to 40 at the time,
Mm,
I just got back into it. And in order to sort of like have something on, I found your podcast back in the day,
awesome.
and it was really cool to listen to you talk about the pitfalls and things of the industry and things that you were going through, and just kind of
Yeah.
like putting your heart on your sleeve and talking.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that, and I want you to know that like I really did appreciate that, listening to that. You don't
Well,
really
thank you.
know, um, until someone is really in the trenches doing this job, you don't really know how
Yeah.
difficult it is and how much is involved.
Yeah. It's hard to explain. It's hard to know. And
Hmm.
then when you're in it, it's hard to navigate.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. There's no blueprint for it. You gotta just
No.
be fluid. But InkPulp, the podcast, then evolved into sort of the YouTube channel that
Hmm.
you do with some of your friends,
Yep.
Matteo and Mahfood will come on there
And
and stuff,
Eric,
and
yeah,
Eric Canete, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And it's just blown up. You have created sort of a space for yourself for fans on Discord, and it's really become almost like the old, like AOL spaces or whatever, that,
oh, that's cool. That's
you
good to
know,
hear. Yeah. Back when the internet was fun.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you've created this really great space for people to talk about the craft and all things comics. And I've watched your career for a long time. You were a teacher in
Yeah,
Savannah, right?
yeah. In Atlanta for
Oh,
Savannah College of
oh,
Art and Design.
gotcha. Okay.
I opened up the campus in Atlanta. Me and my good friend Pat Quinn were hired to build the sequential art department for the Atlanta campus. We were the only two people in the department.
Oh yeah.
And after a little while, Pat got promoted to a dean, and then it was just me. And became the department chair and taught like almost every class. And we started bringing on people, and we grew that department for a good while. I was there for I think 10 years.
Jeepers creepers, man. I don't know about you, but like teaching for me, just all of a sudden, it was great. Not to pat myself on the back, but I think I was really good at it. It was
Yeah,
just that all of a sudden it started turning into Groundhog Day, and
yeah.
like,
I am in touch with that. When I left teaching, I was feeling that a little bit, but more so I was tired of like I I I look at it like I gave it my like I put my heart and soul into teaching and running that department, and I was like I'm giving my life to these people for a paycheck,
yeah,
and they like the people above me were great to me and I love them and they always had my back, but it was people at the very top could give two shits, and
yeah,
they really create like working at SCAD, it's this culture of fear where they keep the teachers in a state of you are replaceable.
hmm,
So when I started doing well with my freelance, they were trying to muscle me out of that, and that's when I was like, it's time to go.
Yep.
And after a few years of not teaching, I was like, I do miss it. I just don't
Yeah.
ever want to work for someone again. Like, I can do this. I know how to build this. So that's what started Ink Pulp Instruction, which is like me being able to teach my way on my terms.
I completely understand that. And I think there's something to how your love as a craftsman and as an artist, and that you had when you were younger, and the advice that people gave you, there's something powerful about paying that forward too.
Dude, I totally agree. And honestly, as much as I help people when they come up and say, what can I do for you? Or they're just thankful and they're like, can I do anything? All I say is make sure that when you're in my seat, you're paying it forward. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't my information. I didn't create this. I learned it from others who learned it from others who learned it from others.
Yep.
And we got to keep this going. And I think one of the heartbreaking things is for a few years there, it just seemed like I felt like, I'm not saying this was a reality, but I felt like people didn't want that. People didn't want that knowledge being passed down. They were
Mm.
too busy like doing it their way, using computers to make it quick and easy and do it their way. And that made me really like double down on the craft thing. And that's where I was like, that's when I created the Keep Craft Alive slogan. And that's when I really wanted to dedicate a portion of everything I do to documenting like the craft, documenting the discussions with the giants who came before me and and my peers and the newcomers. And I was like, at least then at the very end of my time, there will be this imprint on the internet of craft stuff that I was able to like just be a vehicle for, to let people speak and show.
That's exactly what this channel is. So yeah, I
Yeah,
completely,
and
completely get it.
dude, there's so many of us, and so like when I said like my perception was, and I think there was like a short generation of people who just didn't care,
Yeah.
but now the youngest generation, they are hungry to learn this stuff, to know this stuff, and to go back to it.
Yeah.
Like, like self-publishing their own books, using ink and like drawing with graphite. And that's where I think Ink Pulp Live is really tapped into something, because it's like Jim and I show what we do, but we see there like the next day after we do a live show, my inbox is in Instagram is full of people who inked my drawing, because I always put my pencils up and I'm saying, come ink along with me. And it's so awesome to see the excitement, the passion, just the want.
Yeah.
And that gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really just you built that space for it to happen too, which is just amazing. That you had the foresight, and that you loved and nurtured this ink pulp thing you've been doing for so long, and
Yeah, yeah.
you were really fluid with how it's changed and things, and you know
Yeah, and yeah, so you said foresight. I don't think there was
no,
foresight.
yeah,
Like,
right,
I mean, I was just honestly like, I had a vision,
sure,
and
it
then
tells
I'd
you
go
what
down
it
that,
wants to be, right?
yeah, but I would go down that vision path and nothing would work. But I'd
Sure.
learn, okay, that doesn't work, and then I'd get a new vision, and it was like being in the bumpers of a pinball machine, and then
Yes.
finally I was like, oh, things are starting to work.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something people on the outside don't see. They just think you figured out how to do it and you did it. But I think it's important for everyone to know, like, you got to stumble around and make so many mistakes to make something work. And that's not failing. That's just the process.
Right.
And I remember, I don't remember where I heard it, but someone once said to me, you only fail when you stop trying.
That's true. That is
And
true.
I just stuck with it. I was like, you know what? And then I was too deep into it to back out at some one point where I was like, well, I've given 10 years to this. I can't just walk away now.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and I'm glad I didn't, because it's starting to like bear fruit now. And I love everything. And it's not just me. Like, I can't claim that this was my vision, and I can't claim that this was my doing. It was, I built enough of a space that attracted my friends to come in, and then what they brought to the table, it's just magic.
Exactly. Yeah. It was just serendipity and going with the flow, and here it is.
Totally.
And you
Yeah.
know, you've made the whole, I think that you've made the whole comics, community richer for it. Just sticking
Oh,
to
well,
it,
thank you. Thank you. I mean, that's nice. I hope there's some truth to that, but it's nice to just have a community. Like, I think that's one of the things that really broke my heart about comics when I was working freelance full time was, I mean, I came up with a lot of friends who I thought were friends, and then I just saw like other sides of them when we all got into the freelance game, and it was like I just felt at one point really alone. Like, people I trusted, I was like, what is, like, I should have never trusted you. I thought we were friends, and I was like, community, like, where's the community here? Like, where's the
Yeah.
camaraderie? And it extends beyond comics, just communities in general. I think it started in the early days of the internet, just became like destroyed.
Hmm.
And, at first the internet was full of communities and it was
Sure.
awesome. And then it just became places for division.
Yeah. Everything
And
fragmented. Yeah.
yeah, and even like in my neighborhood, like when I grew up, when it was dinner time, I was out in the neighborhood somewhere, which was a big neighborhood.
Hmm.
And all my mom had to do was yell my name and say dinner, and the neighbor or 2 houses down would hear it and be like, "I saw Shawn over at that playground over there." She could call she knew that my friend's mom was over there, and the word would get to me like, "Dinner's ready, go home."
Yeah.
And that, like, now I don't know my neighbors.
Right. Yeah. It's yeah, everything is completely changed. I mean, we're having the old man conversation,
Yeah.
figured out this with the
But I
world,
think it's an
but
important
it is true.
conversation to
Yeah.
have, because I
Yeah.
want the younger generation to, like, try to bring it back, and it seems
Yeah.
like they are. I
I
mean, I
actually
have so
think
much
that's true.
hope.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have so much hope for this younger generation.
I do too.
Like, I see what they're doing, and it's so inspiring. I'm like, "You guys are crushing it," and you're, like, 20.
Yeah.
Like, this is so cool to see because, 10 years ago, the 20-year-olds, I didn't see that.
All right. Can we take a little bit of a left turn there and go back to
Yeah,
that? Like when you
sure.
were young, what do you remember? Do you remember when comics sort of sunk their
Oh,
hooks into you? What was it?
I remember specifically. Um, I didn't grow up wanting to do comics. I didn't
Hmm.
know. I mean, I knew what a comic book was, but I never really read one. I read the comic strips. Like, I
Sure.
loved reading Calvin and Hobbes every day while I had my cereal. But I wanted to do animation because
Mhm.
the Spider-Man cartoon when I was a kid was like my favorite thing ever. And so I was like, I want to do that because I like to draw, and I was infatuated with Spider-Man. Maybe I knew it was a comic book, maybe I didn't. I don't know, but the cartoon made me think it was animation. But and it wasn't until I was 15 years old, maybe 14. Yeah, probably 14, when I was drawing, and a guy in my class saw me drawing and liked it and said, "You should draw Batman." And I was like, "Oh, I grew up on the Justice League cartoon. I can draw Batman." So I
Yeah.
did, and he's like, "That's cool." He's like, "I'm gonna bring you something." And the next day, and this is crazy because the first comic book I ever read was The Dark Knight Returns. He gave me a trade of The Dark Knight Returns, and I was an avid reader. I love novels, and Stephen King was my favorite author. And I saw on the back of this trade paperback was a Stephen King pull quote, and I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute. This is a comic book. I thought these were like throwaway trashy things, but Stephen King is talking about how brilliant this piece is." I took it home and read it, and it was it. I was done. I was like,
Yep.
"This is the most amazing thing I've ever read." And I was into skateboarding at the time, And every day when we went skateboarding, we'd skateboard up to where I live. They had like, I mean, we had 7-Elevens, but there was another thing called Highs.
Hmm.
And I stopped at the Highs and there was a spinner rack. I was like, let me look. And I saw Todd McFarlane's Amazing Spider-Man. And I was like, this is amazing. And yeah, so that was done. So Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane, that's what got me.
That's a trip. Yeah, you and I have very similar parallels because it was that Burton Batman marketing machine was chugging along, and I was just so
Yeah.
into Batman. And my brothers for Christmas gave me a copy of that like leather bound Dark Knight Returns, and that was
Oh, I
basically the
remember
first book.
that.
Yeah, yep. And then right to Les's Superette, just like our my shop, right to the spinner rack, and pulled off a
Nice.
Detective Comics, and yep, and McFarlane's Amazing Spider-Man. That's wild, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then it was just drawing, like copying that for the longest time. Is that what
Yeah.
you
Oh,
did too?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, dude, I drew the shit out of the Dark Knight Returns.
yeah,
Every one of those splash pages in the book, I drew over and over and over. I can even remember the marker I was filling in blacks with when I did that. It's the giant silhouette of Batman like jumping through the sky with the lightning behind
yeah.
him. It was just a silhouette. And I remember this expo marker I was filling in the blacks with. Like,
That's so funny.
yeah, that's crazy. I hadn't thought
Fast
about that in a
forward,
while.
and you're like good friends with Klaus Janson now. It's
Dude,
the
not just
13-year-old
that.
you is so happy.
Dude, trust me, it freaks me out every time. But Klaus wrote the intro to my art book,
Oh my god.
which I was like, I'm gonna aim high. And who's like my dream to like write the intro for my book about my craft and my love of craft and my art, my process. I was like, Klaus would be the dream. And I mean, I'm friends with him, so he said yeah. But I mean, we have text threads going with my wife, my art dealer, his girlfriend, and Klaus. And like I'll be working and I'll check my phone. It's like my wife and Klaus are having conversations, and my kids all know Klaus and have
Yeah,
conversations with him. It's surreal. It's
life is
crazy,
a trip,
man.
man.
It is wild. It is wild.
Do you you know, do you remember a lot of the different artists that you sort of chased after to in those early days when before we land in our style, who you
Oh
really
yeah.
wanted to be like?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're still very much in my work, and
Yeah.
I still look at them all the time. It started with McFarlane, and I remember that led me to reading more and more comics. And the artists that really grabbed me were Rick Leonardi. I still think he's one of my favorite, like just straight up figure drawing. He's
Mhm.
one of my favorites. Alan Davis. I
Okay.
couldn't get enough of Alan Davis. Mark Silvestri on Uncanny X-Men. I loved that stuff. I liked some of the other image guys when they were at Marvel. Like I liked Jim Lee. I didn't love Jim Lee. I
Mhm.
liked Liefeld. I didn't love Liefeld. But when but McFarlane I loved, and those other guys I loved. But then when I discovered Art Adams, I was like, well, okay, God can draw. Like here we go. This is the god of drawing.
Yep.
And and shortly after that I discovered Jeff Darrow. Not that Darrow was a huge influence on me, but I couldn't get enough of looking at it. It was just mind-blowing stuff. And then I remember the next wave coming in when I discovered Matteo and Chris
Hmm.
Pacello, and those guys rocked my mind. And from there, I started reading heavy metal and got exposed to the European artists. And that book changed everything because I mean, I after seeing heavy metal and then shortly after that, seeing Sin City and Hellboy, I was like, I just want to write and draw my own stuff. Like this
Yeah.
seems so much cooler. I loved the superhero stuff, but I was like, this is more like the pure artist voice, and I wanted to get into that. But when it came to straight drawing, like, yeah, Matt Herrera, like, and Chris Pacello were like my all-time heroes. And then when I got a little older and Guy Jin came in, Jason Pearson changed everything for me. Like,
Okay.
I was like, okay, here's the thing. Matt Herrera and Pacello are so stylish and flashy, but they're also very popcorny. Like like um it's very like uh it's not an academic look to it.
Sure.
And I remember reading Born Again shortly after I read Dark Knight Returns, and I couldn't, like, I kept reading it over and over, and I was like, I think this art is crummy, but there's something about it that keeps calling me back to it. And it was David Mazzucchelli.
Yeah.
And as I got older, I was like, oh my God, he's like a real like artist, like insane, amazing artist.
Yeah.
And so I had this flashy stuff I loved, and then I had this more academic stuff I loved. And then when I saw Jason Pearson, it was like
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's it. That's what I want to be. And then discovering the other Gaijin guys, because I feel like they came in and brought more substance back to comics, like
Mm.
composition and
Mm-hmm.
design and storytelling. Because Mattera and Bicella and like that whole Image crew, they were all about style.
Yes.
It wasn't about creating these incredible quiet compositions. It was just big, powerful imagery, which was great. And I don't think anyone can draw power as well as Joe Madureira.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw Jason, I was like, well, he's got the power, and he's got the like the compositions and the storytelling. And that led me down a very academic approach to learning about comics, which put me on a deep dive with Mike Mignola. And then I discovered Kevin Nolan,
Right.
and that got into my head big time. And around that time, Bruce Timm came in on the scene, and that spoke to me. And I remember hitting a point where I was like, my dream for me would be to be this hybrid of Kevin Nolan and Bruce Timm. And so I filled sketchbooks where I would take a Bruce Timm drawing and then try to like figure out the lighting and rendering that Kevin Nolan would do on top. And I filled sketchbook after sketchbook of those exercises. And I think that's what really shaped me.
So you were a professor before you were a professor, just for yourself.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like teaching was always just
Mm.
natural because it's how I'm wired. Like my whole inspiration for drawing is it's a journey of learning. And it's not about what I've done, what it looks like at the end. I mean, of course I care about that, but it's about every time I sit down to draw, I want to get better from this, and I want to learn from this. So that's why I never understood the digital shortcuts,
Yeah. Yep.
because to me it was like I'm removing the most important part of the process,
Yeah.
and I'm just getting it done. And if I'm just getting it done, well, now I'm just a cog in a machine, and I'm just an
Exactly.
employee. And I didn't want to be that. And so the more and more people were just grabbing computers to like speed them up. And I understand deadlines are relentless. I get it.
Mm.
But I just felt like that would hurt us, hurt our
Yeah.
medium, hurt our craft,
Yeah.
because now we're just machines to meet deadlines. And is that helping us? No. I
No.
mean, financially, if you're faster, sure. But is it helping us as artists? No. And is it helping our medium? No, because I think you can confidently say quality didn't go up when computers started becoming a thing. Quality either remained the same, or you might even could say it dipped.
Yep.
But but who was benefiting? The publishers.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's letting corporations dictate the art, and I just can't get behind that.
Yep.
So I've always taken the slow, hard path because that's my path.
I absolutely hear you. I think that you can probably dip out now, and I'll just tell the rest of the story because it seems your story seems to be exactly mine. Which
That's
is
awesome.
it's really, really, really a trip. Well, that's awesome. And so when I'm not sure like the earliest work that I saw of yours. When did you? I hate saying break in because you always feel like you're breaking in. But
Yeah,
when
well,
did
it's
you first
funny.
get like
My
professional work?
my first job in comics was working for Wildstorm, and
Okay.
that's when I was in grad school in Savannah at SCAD. After my first year, I finally got a job. So my second year of grad school, I was working for Wildstorm doing a Resident Evil comic
Hmm.
called Fire and Ice. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna graduate. I'm set. I did it. I broke in, but I didn't get my second job for another decade.
Oh yeah. Was it
Yeah.
like a big space in between, huh?
Yeah, and that sucked. Like, that was hardcore, dude.
It
But I
wasn't
took
for lack
edit
of trying. It was
No,
just,
no, dude, I
yeah,
was at every convention. I
yeah.
was doing sample pages constantly. Everyone in the industry knew who I was. Like, I had fans of my work, like Mark Chiarello, Bob
Hmm.
Schreck. Like, I had a lot of editors championing me, but there were a few things working against me. One, that's around the time when Quesada put a mandate down at Marvel's, like, no more cartoony stuff. We're going for realism.
Mm,
This is before the movie stuff.
yeah,
And it was like everything became like, I remember an editor saying, Shawn, if you just like use photo reference, I can give you work. And I was like, I don't want to trace photos all day. Like, that doesn't sound fun to me. And like, those comics didn't excite me. Like,
yeah,
I like Jason Pearson. Like, I want all, but there were people kind of grandfathered in, like, because I would always, because Ramos was like my god for a period too. And when they said that, I was like, but Umberto, and they're like, yeah, but he's Umberto. I was like, okay, that's fair. But so that was working against me. And also at the time, I was leaning into simpler, more animated style, like almost Bruce Timm level simplicity. And I was enjoying the hell out of what I was doing, but the publishers could not care less. But that's the stuff that like Mark Chiarello loved, and he was like, I love this, but I can't like bring that over to DC. So I had that working against me, and I mean, I tried every angle, every door. And that then I was like, okay, I was like, I need a job, and I worked in animation for a little bit. I worked in video game design for a little bit. Still, I would come home from work and work on sample pages.
yeah,
And then I was like, I need something more steady. I don't know if this comics thing is ever going to happen again.
right.
I'm not going to stop trying, but I need, like, we were talking about having a kid at the time.
Hmm.
And I was
Yeah.
like, I need a job. So that got me to teach.
Okay.
And I did get my master's degree with that in my mind, like, I can teach. And from what I understood about teaching college was you have the time to work on your stuff too. So I was like, I can go get a teaching job and still pursue this. And so that's what I did.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, a similar thing with me too. That I was going around to every convention, beating my head against the wall, just like knowing that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But wanting to have my own unique voice. I didn't want to draw like everybody else, but I knew it was quality work, and it just took so long for editors to finally. They need to see you more and more and more and more and more, and
Yeah.
finally, because now all of a sudden I'm doing great, but it took, I don't know, like 10 years of being freelance,
Yeah.
and I don't even know how much longer before I got to the place that I am now. And it's you have to be like committed to the point of being probably insane, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I broke myself. I broke
Yeah,
myself a few
yeah, yeah.
times.
um well, that's amazing. So I imagine that your style did, you're constantly trying to grow. I imagine your style did change like a lot from the beginning to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And all those experiments and all the stylistic like changing, it landed me where I am, and I feel very much like I'm me now. Like, my work is me. I understand who I am as an artist. It doesn't mean I'm not continuing to grow and
Right.
wanting to try new things, but my shape language, it's funny you have my sketchbook up there, but my
Yeah.
shape language finally became mine. And I think
Yeah.
that's what, like, people always ask about style. Like, I don't think style is your mark making. I don't think style is the surface. I think it's below that, and I think
Mhm.
it's really your shape language.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And I also think that any artist who doesn't push and try to get better, with everything that they sit down to do is just, a shark that stops swimming. I mean, look at Pinocchio.
Yeah,
Look
oh,
at the arc of his career.
dude, I remember watching that transformation. Like, what is happening? Like, Dan, I'm in an art group called Essential
Yeah.
Sequential, which you probably know, but in case
Mhm.
anyone out there doesn't
Right.
know,
Right.
Klaus is in the group, but me, Matteo Scalera, and Eric Canete are in that crew, and
Yes.
Dan is in that group too. But sometimes we have discussions amongst ourselves, like who do we think is the best in the group? And Dan comes up a lot, and Andrew Robinson comes up a lot, and Mindy Lee.
Hmm.
Those three are like the most. But yeah, Dan is amazing. He has so much life and personality in his drawing. It's unreal.
It really is, and every single drawing is a level up.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre.
Yeah, but let's
Um,
not tell him that.
yeah, no, shh, I'll cut that out. Uh, so you have this art book coming out,
Yes, yes,
InkPulp CYAN, right?
yes, yes.
It is on Kickstarter right now.
Right now.
It's
And yeah,
crushing it. What were
thank
you
you.
at? Like something.
I'm at 28. Actually it's right here in
Yep,
front of me. I'm at
28
28.
417 right this
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, 28 589 now.
Oh, I didn't refresh. There we go. Sweet.
Yeah, so it's dude, it's going great. It's been incredible. Like
Yeah.
this, I've tripled, no, almost tripled my best. I've only done 2 Kickstarters before this, and I've almost tripled the best of those 2 already. But I started putting this art book together um when around the time when COVID started was the last time I did a Kickstarter, and I launched an art book. And the day they shut everything down was the day I launched, and it was just bad timing. And in the end, the Kickstarter didn't do bad. It did decent,
Hmm.
considering what was going on. I was like, all right, at least it did decent. But that's when I started to really, like, I used COVID as like a time to learn to paint, and just started documenting everything, keeping track of everything. I was like, my next art book is going to be all about this. And as I developed the Keep Craft Alive slogan, and all the shows are taking off, I was like, I can't just put out an art book. Like, here's my art.
Yeah.
Like everything I'm doing, it's like not just about like, here it is. Like, that's an old way of operating where you could do that. I think
Yep.
now you have to really think deeper. Okay, well, what makes this stand out? What makes this worth more? What makes this unique? And I was like, my art book is gonna be about craft. It's not just gonna be like, here's my finished pieces. They're in there, but I want to show you the processes and steps that got me there. And I also want to write about every stage, so you can get into my head and read the decisions and thoughts I was having as making it. So I had to write this book, and I'm really proud of what I put together here, because if you like art, it's a cool inside look into art. If you're an artist, there's a lot of information in there that may inspire you to try something, or might answer a question you have. Um, so I just wanted this to, like, to just be something special. And the book itself, I want it to be like an art object. So it's a hardcover, 10-inch by 10 inches. As you can see, like, I have Jason Gonzalez does all my design work, and I love how well he designs and packages things. And we put attention into every aspect of this book. And it's just, I mean, there's like the first few chapters are all about the art supplies I use. Why do I
Yeah.
use them? What do I like about them?
Yeah.
And I took photographs of everything. So I think it's going to be like, people are going to respond really well to this. Like, wow, this is pretty unique.
That's really awesome. You know what's funny is when I was flipping through it, there was an undertone that was speaking to me that said, "This feels like this feels like vibes of Jay Gonzo in here."
Dude, oh, it's
And
totally
then I was like,
Gonzo.
"Wait a second!" And then I read like he had his fingers in designing it. I was
Absolutely.
like, this makes
Uh,
sense.
Yeah, I want Gonzo, as long as he's available, because he's so good.
Yeah.
He's always busy, but as long as
Yeah.
Gonzo's available, I want him to do everything. I mean, all of my logos, that little smiley face there, the typeface of InkPulp, all of it is Gonzo. Everything I do, my whole Kickstarter campaign, all the graphics are Gonzo. Everything I do, I get. I mean, I hire Gonzo to bring it to life. And it's not just what it looks like with him. Because of his background in design and advertising, he can explain the reasoning. And anything anyone's learned from this conversation, that's what's important to me, is understanding why you're doing something.
Yes.
And so he can explain something to me that I'm like, okay. And that's helped me as someone who's marketing my own artwork get better at making a living at this.
Yeah.
Um, and we're gonna have Gonzo on the podcast in 2 weeks
Oh,
to talk
great.
about all this stuff. Yeah.
I think that you two have some sort of similar sensibilities too, and that's
Yeah.
also why it sort of meshes perfectly. You
Yeah, I
know,
agree. I
most
remember I saw him. I think he came up to me at a con. I'm gonna say it was probably at a Heroes Con and
yeah,
was talking to me. I was like, "Oh, this guy's cool." I did, and he said he was an artist, but I didn't know his work. And it was like a month later, I went to a show in Phoenix, and I was walking by and I saw him sitting down, and then I saw his work. I was like, "Oh, dude!" It
yeah,
was like retro, cartoony, like
yep,
UTA stuff
very
mixed with
graphic.
like a modern sensibility with some yeah, very graphic, but there's like some graffiti and hip hop
Mhm.
inspiration behind it. And I was like, this is awesome. And his design, like all the design work blew me away. So we just started chatting a lot after that. And as soon as I could afford to hire a designer, I contacted him.
That's amazing. I was right next to him at Heroes this last weekend,
Oh, nice.
and then last year he and I were right next to each other at Permanent Damage, this show in Los Angeles. That's amazing. If you can ever make it out here to attend one of those, I
What kind of
highly
show
suggest.
is that?
Very small, almost indie cartoonist show in
Those
it.
honestly,
They're
that's
the
what I'm
best
talking
shows.
about.
Hmm.
Yeah, those there's a lot of young kids there that are the future, and they're killing it,
Yep.
and I wanna do more and more of those shows. They're
Yeah.
so inspiring, and they're so filled with, like, good energy. I wanna
Yeah.
get in on that.
It's in a record store with a
Oh,
bar
dude.
in
Oh
it,
my
and
god, that sounds awesome.
200 people come in, maybe, but every person that walks in buys something off of every single person.
Oh,
So
that's aw I would love to do something like
it's
that.
amazing. Let's take a look at
Sure.
the sampler of this.
Sure, sure, sure.
Um,
So, this what we're seeing here is it's not my art book, it's my sketchbook, which is magenta, InkPulp magenta. And I gave away a PDF of this. This has nothing to do with my art book. This is
sure.
sketches. So these are the underdrawings. They're all the shape languages of my sketches, drawings, compositional studies. And I was like, I'm gonna give away a PDF of this for everyone who uh comes to my Kickstarter as like a little thank you. And then I had set a stretch goal of like, look, if we get to 35K, I'm gonna print these and give them away like a printed copy to everyone who's pledged at my print. I have one level called Hip Hop Heroes, which is a 3 print set and my CYAN book. I was like, anyone who got that level and above is going to get a free copy of this. And what I just announced before you hit record was I lowered that to 30. I was like,
Mm,
I want to make sure, like, I feel like I could hit 35. I don't know if I will, but
yeah.
I want to make sure that I can get a printed version of this out to people. So today I just announced, like, you know what? Let's get to 30 because we're
Yeah.
close. Like, I'm definitely gonna get to 30.
Mhm.
And I was like, that way I can get this book out. So if you've pledged at just the book, just up your pledge by 30 bucks, get those 3 prints, and you're gonna get a free sketchbook.
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing is the cover to that book.
Even in the sketchbook, there's so much information for creators and enough for anybody to that even isn't a creator to look at, and knowledge in this. So let's
Thank you.
take a look at it a little bit.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
So you talk about your shape language, and
Yeah.
and you talk a little bit about discovering
Yep.
Bruce Timm and things like that.
Yeah, all this stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, speak to what shape language means.
So shape language is it's how you like to me, it's how you see things. Like everyone can draw a mannequin and let me this is probably the easiest way to describe it. When Mike Mignola draws a figure or draws a mug or draws a cow, they all look like they're built with the same shapes
Yep.
that are unique to him. And they don't look like the world I see when I look outside. And And if you think about the work of Bruce Timm, those silhouettes of the figures and all that stuff, that's shape language. And I
Yeah,
think what separates every artist is that shape language. And I think that's, like I said earlier, that's where your style is. So
yeah,
my sketches and my thumbnails, which is what this book is really just shape language because I'm
right.
not really finessing the surface.
Yeah, you can see how you're putting things together and building them because this is the sketchbook, and you see your sort of underdrawing and your and the way that you are popping the pieces into place. You can see exactly where you are getting that, shape language with the way that you draw capes, and there's other stylistic things in here too that people can pull out, but yeah, you can
Yeah.
definitely see it. Your work is very you have this interesting thing where you're organic and geometric at the same time, and I think that
Yeah.
probably comes from what you were talking about earlier,
It does, it
of
does.
combining
Well,
those things.
yeah, I mean, for me, I never understood rendering form with value. Like, it never made sense to me, like, it seemed like it was too much to try to understand how to softly shade everything with slight tonal shifts. I was like, that requires having whatever you're drawing to be right in front of you, so that
Right.
you can look at every little nuance of tone and value and shape. And I was like, "That's no way to draw comics." Like, I did a few things where I took photographs when I was in school of every panel and lit them the way I wanted to, and that
Mhm.
was a great academic exercise, but completely unsustainable.
Oh, yeah.
But also I reached a point where I was like, everything's so stiff when I was drawing it. So, but what helped me see, uh, form in value was, it started with Mignola,
Mhm.
led me to Bridgman, George Bridgman anatomy
Yes.
picks. And it was as simple as like understanding, like, if you have a cube in space, if you hit this side with light, this side's in shadow.
Right.
And when you can apply that way of thinking to all the surface anatomy and everything you draw, then I was like, okay, I can separate white and black. Like, if I make the shadow black and the rest white, and I get rid of all my lines, that if I did my job, that black shadow will tell you everything you need to know. And that I got from Mignola. And
Yep.
so that helped me get an understanding of, like, at least how to start with white and black. And
Yeah.
then Kevin Nolan, his work showed me how to soften the transition from light to dark. So you go from black to what I call an optical gray, which is not a true gray. It's either cross-hatching or dry brush or feathering that creates the illusion of that black lightening as it turns to white. And that's where I start to understand, like, how form becomes three-dimensional. And like, there, if you look at that swamp thing and Batman stuff, like, that's all just light and shadow. That's the geometric masses of those shapes. There's no value in that.
Right.
And that just comes from my logic system. Like, that's how I understand.
The only mid-tone that you have in there to separate anything is on the cape here in your thumbnail,
Yeah.
because you have to kind of separate. Well, I mean, really, you didn't, but you chose to separate the cape from the rest of the body, sort of there.
Yeah, and that's not even like me, like, making it that's more just for me, like, making a note to myself so I can still see
Yeah,
the outline of the swamp thing against the cape so that when I blow it up and lightbox it, it'll maintain itself.
yeah, and there's something to say about going to back to almost like Scott McCloud stuff of just like symbolism, like you can tell
Yeah,
a bathroom is male or female because of the shape of the figure on the door. And a
right.
lot of what we do is
Yeah,
just boiling down shapes, you
totally,
know.
totally, totally.
Um, you and I, our styles couldn't be more night and day. Um, but because I am very texture rendery kind of guy,
Mhm,
um,
mhm.
it's probably because I didn't read comics for 10 years. And while you followed the Pearson thing, I went and played music and screwed around for 10 years. But, the thing that does bind it together is the story, the clarity of story above all, can't get in front of anything else. And the shape language that you've developed is just a really great way to simply tell the story too, you know?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, this is really great. I love seeing the initial stuff. Even your initial drawings are
Yeah.
more meticulous than mine.
Yeah.
I am finding the shape and going all over the place, and I
Yeah.
never
It's
understood
honestly,
clean pencils.
it's just how I draw. I can't like I
Yeah,
I don't think I'm not saying it's the way to be.
no,
It's just
everybody's
the way I
different.
am. And at times I feel like it's not healthy, but I know it's fine. It's just when I see when I look at other people's like drawings, they're so like fluid and they're discovering it. Like Jason Sean Alexander, watching him like
Yeah,
discover the drawing as he works on it is so cool. Where it's like in my head, I kind of see it and I'm just trying to make it. Yeah, like those, like
so
those are so
cool.
tiny little drawings, but yeah, they're kind of everything's there.
There he is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is there. It's just a different way of doing stuff. Like my poor editors when they see my thumbnails and try to
Oh,
decipher.
you know what though? I'll tell you what, working this tight, like and getting your thumbnails to be so crystal clear, it opens you up for them saying change shit because
Yeah,
they can see it so perfectly. Whereas like with looser ones, they might be like, oh, we'll see how that plays out in the end. And then they forget about it. But like with
yeah.
mine, it's like change that, change that, change that. I'm like, damn it.
I think mine borders on I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at.
You know what? Scotty Young once told me his thumbnails are like chicken scratch. And he's like,
Hmm.
if they can't read it, that's their problem. This is what they're getting. And the next thing they're going to see is my inks. Like,
Yeah,
they're just going to get what they get. And I'm like, I wish I had the balls to do
he's
that.
also Scotty Young.
Right, right, exactly. But I'm actually, yeah, I mean, I'm just too worried it's going to bite me. And then I'm going to like have this finished work that I'm going to then go have to redo. And I don't
Right.
wanna, like, redo something I've finished. I
Yeah.
can redo a thumbnail. I don't like it, but I can redo it. But redoing a panel that's inked? No. Uh-uh.
No. Mm-mm.
Because and that's my whole process is, like, I've given you every chance to comment on it, and it's all been pretty clear along the way.
Yeah.
So,
No, I absolutely hear that. That's I really hate doing that. I find myself doing it once in a while and just sort of biting my tongue, but this is great. Look at that. So you can immediately tell let's talk about shape language. We can
yeah.
immediately tell that this is Frank Miller's Dark Knight, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
But it's this weird balance where it looks exactly like a Sean Crystal drawing of the
Thank
Dark
you.
Knight.
Yeah.
Um, but if you squinted, it also could also be Frank Miller's,
Sure.
and you've managed to figure out how to be able to you know reconcile a few different things to make something entirely your own, yet echo things that are recognizable when you need to.
Yeah, I wish I could claim, intention on that. I don't know. It just feels like me.
That's
Yeah.
art. That's art. Art.
Yeah.
Art sometimes tells you what it wants to be, man.
Yeah, 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 I think that's an important thing is when you learn to
You got to
listen
listen
to
to
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this is the stuff that made me think of Gonzo.
Oh, yeah, this was it's a little, it's a bar here called Mambo Zombie, and it's designed to be like a place like, if you remember the waiting room in the afterlife in Beetlejuice,
Yes,
that was their inspiration. So,
love it.
like, when you walk in the front door and turn around, it's a giant pink coffin you just walked through, so it's like you're walking into the afterlife.
I
It's a
love
it's a
that.
fun spot, but they were looking for some logo stuff, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll mess around."
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, lucky them. Yeah, these are great. And so much energy. And I love the big eyes that you do, the big almond
Yeah,
eyes on
yeah.
the
Oh, that I love that description. I wish I had never heard that before. That's great. Almond eyes. That's
yeah,
awesome.
they work really, really well. and they're big and expressive. It's like it took a long time before artists to kind of realize that you can have expression on Spider-Man if
Oh my
you
god.
change the
If
shape
you're
of the thing.
Yeah, if you're not messing with his eyes, you're missing the whole point of that design.
It took until, I don't know, like the late 90s, I feel like, for people to really grasp it, maybe.
Yeah, I guess I have to go look. I always felt like Ditko did that, but I have to go look.
Maybe, but maybe I'm thinking like more to an extreme,
Yeah.
a
Yeah, I
really
mean,
squinting one or whatever.
like, I look at, like, what Humberto does with Spider-Man, I'm like,
Mhm.
"That's how you do Spider-Man."
Yeah. Yep. Man, these are great. And then you also are a tattoo artist, right?
Yeah, I just started. I've been tattooing as an apprentice for almost a year now,
Okay.
and so, I do that 2 days a week.
Yeah, that's awesome. Apprenticeships take a long time, right? Like 6 years, I heard.
Yeah, traditionally, but I'm doing a very, unorthodox
Mm,
apprenticeship. I have a good friend who's a very famous tattoo artist who, opened a shop, and he said when he before he opened, he's like, "I'm gonna one day open a shop, and I just wanna get you in and get you up and running because 'cause we're friends," and he's like, "It'd be cool to have you in there," and,
yeah.
he likes my art, I like his, and he was like, "If you know," he's like, he just thought I would be a good fit, and he's been very generous to me with time and the way we're doing it. So, um, I've done probably about 30 tattoos now, and I mean the apprenticeship now is like he's like just keep bringing people in and keep tattooing, and when you're at the point where I feel like it's okay to charge, you'll just start charging, and I'm very close to that now.
Oh, that's great. That's a very like relaxed way to
Oh
do
my
it,
god, so
you know?
much, yeah, yeah.
I've just heard such not nightmares, but sounds just
Well, my
grueling.
first this was the fruit of a poison tree. That was my first apprenticeship, which was
Yeah.
with where my mentor now, Eddie Stacy, used to work at a shop called Ink and Dagger,
Yeah, yeah.
and the guy who owned Ink and Dagger, he's another very famous tattooer. He did my chest piece, and
Okay.
as he was tattooing me, he said to me, "What do I got to do to get you in here?" And I was like, "Dude, let's do it! Like that sounds so exciting." Um, and I've always been looking for a way to relieve myself of the freelance stuff because freelance comics is a time suck and a money suck.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't get ahead. I was like, if I could find a way to use my art to make good money in a short period of time and free up time to do the comics I want to do the way I want to do them, that would be
Mhm.
ideal. And honestly, that's everything I've built from the podcast to the live show to my ink pulp instruction and the class I'm teaching with Jake Parker. Like everything is designed to like kind of afford me that. But Russ just never taught me anything. After a year and a half, like I'm supporting a family on working for Marvel, and that was rough in and of itself. And
Ooh,
now I'm giving up a day a week of my time, and I was working 7 days a week, so
yeah.
I'm giving a day a week to come in and learn, and I just wasn't learning. And it got to the point where it's like, I'm done. Like you have not utilized, you have disrespected my time
Yeah.
so much. And Eddie was he was my champion because he was always talking like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, let's get Shawn going. He's a Batman artist. Like, this is crazy." And it just never happened. So when I left, I mean, Eddie and I stayed close friends, and we'd go out for breakfast like once a month. And he would say, "Dude, I'm gonna get out of here soon, and I'm gonna get you up and running." And he's a man of his word, and that's exactly what he did. About a year before he left, he gave me a tattoo machine and said, "Just mess around with this in your studio." And I'd show him what I was doing. I'd ask questions, and then when he opened the shop, I just came in a day a week and shadowed him. Just
Sure.
asked questions and watched him for about 6 months,
Hmm.
and then it's like, "All right, let's get you tattooing." And so that's what I did.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was storyboarding for me, was the ability to actually make some money with my illustration and stuff like that. Now it's pretty much dried up with because they kind of rolled over on the AI stuff.
Yeah,
It hasn't really worked
dude,
since the Penguin. So
yeah, this is weird. New York Comic Con last year, I met a few artists from animation who are really skilled artists, and they're like, "Yeah, our industry's getting wiped out, so we want to come over to comics." And that's
Yeah.
like that's the reverse logic of everything in comics. Like
Right.
everyone in comics was like, "Well, I might just go to animation because I have benefits, I have a
Yep.
union, it's more stable, it pays better, you work less." And so like going into animation was always seen as like, "Oh, you've found some comfort." And to hear them want to come over here, it's like, "Well, you want to come to the Wild West?" Like, okay.
Right.
And I helped one of them getting a cover gig over at DC. She's an incredible artist named Camille, and she showed me her portfolio. I was like, I honestly, I think if I just sent this to my editor at DC, I think she would just hire you, and that's kind of what happened.
Right. That's amazing. This is a little bit of a preview of the book, right?
Yeah, this is CYAN. So
Mhm.
scroll back a few images. I'll talk about what we're seeing. One more, I think. Yeah, so that's the cover to CYAN. And if you scroll through, so the beginning of the book is it's about me. My scroll one more time.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's about my love of traditional media, the my love of academic and art and teaching art and talking about craft. And you can keep scrolling. I'll just
Yeah.
keep
You
yapping.
talk
So these
about
are these are
tools
my
here.
brushes.
Hmm.
I talk about all like these are the three staples I use. The one at the top is my main go-to,
Yep, that's
but
mine too.
I like to switch it up sometimes.
Yeah, you have
Um,
to.
yeah, and so I like here's because everyone's asking like, what do you ink with?
Of course.
And then here this shows you my process. So all the way on the left, you see the initial little sketch, which was probably an inch tall when I
Sure.
first drew it, and then I blew it up and refined the pencils.
How'd you blow it up?
I scan it in in Photoshop, make it the size I want. Then I
Hmm.
print it out and I light box it,
Okay.
or I do a graphite transfer, depending on how thick the paper is.
Okay.
Because sometimes I use board, which a light box won't go through, so
Yep.
I'll graphite transfer. But if I can use a light box, I'll
How
use
do you
that.
do a graphite transfer? I don't think I've ever done that.
Turn the printout over, cover the back with like a 6B or a 9B lead, like all of it,
Yeah.
put it on top of your paper and trace the printout, and then when you remove it, you've
Ah.
got the graphite. Now, that's the, like, old school dirty way of doing it. Like, Andrew always asks me when he sees me doing it because you can buy graphite paper. So you just
Sure.
put the graphite paper between the two and trace it. He's
Okay.
like, "Why don't you just use graphite paper?" I'm like, "I honestly don't know. I've been
Because
doing
you
it
like to
I've been
scribble.
doing it this way forever."
Yeah,
And
you're getting something out.
yeah, so, yeah, I don't know. I should get some graphite paper. It would save me time.
What medium are you using on this?
So that's all of my painting is acrylic.
Okay.
I what I do is, and I talk about this in the book, and in fact, one of my tiers on my Kickstarter is a painting workshop that
Oh.
you can buy the book and get access to a painting workshop, a live one that I'm going to give on a Saturday. I think it's like from 12 to 5, where I'm going to do a whole painting. And I think there's only like 4 people signed up for it.
Oh, I
So
might need to up my thing.
yeah, and so I mean, it's like I don't think a lot of people are going to be in there, so you'll
Sure.
be able to ask me questions as I'm going it. It's going to be very casual. I'm going to explain everything I'm doing. Why'd you use that color? Why'd you
Yeah.
do this? And if you see something, just ask and I'll answer it. Like I want, like if I'm doing a book about craft, how am I not going to include a workshop
Right.
about craft? So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Here you talk about a little bit. I was reading about how you always see. That's a great surfer. Those eyes,
thank you.
the
I love to
round
make
eyes,
him.
they're creepy, but
Yeah,
he kind of
server
should
should
be.
be creepy.
Yeah, he
He
should
should be
be.
so he's an alien weird dude who surfs he's so, like I don't understand people who just make him look like a ripped, like naked man who's made of silver. Like he should look like an alien.
Yeah. I could guess why people would want to do that, but
Oh
no, he
yeah,
should be. He totally should
yeah,
be like a weird
yeah,
alien. And how you said, Galactus always just kind of stands there, and you wanted to have him.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That was a huge painting I did. I think that's the biggest painting I've ever done. It was
that's
awesome.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Um, And then here you talk a little bit about how, Juggernaut is just sort of like this maroon color. You wanted to get some more shine on it,
Yeah,
color a
it's
little bit.
always my challenge. Like I did a little painting of Pitt on our live show
Hmm.
last time, and I was like, "Oh, he's gray. I'm not gonna make him gray."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
what can I do? So
Right,
yeah,
right.
I went kind of crazy on the Juggernaut there. But I had a lot. That was awesome. That was
Yeah,
fun.
but it actually is really great for like educational purposes to see how those colors work together to create the
Yeah.
illusion of a single color. Because I can't ever wrap my brain around that, and I can see it here.
Oh,
You know?
good. That's good to hear. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
honestly, that's from 1,000 conversations with Brian Stelfreeze.
yeah. I'm sure he's. I mean, how many people has he mentored and shown the way?
An entire industry.
Yep.
Brian is an invaluable resource to
Yeah.
everyone.
And then here you get into kind of your pages a bit.
Yeah, so there I did this short story for Ahoy Comics. And it was really one of my favorite things I've ever done in comics. So I put the whole thing in there, including the thumbnails, so you can see like the thumbnails and how the finished page looks. I don't think it's in the
Oh,
preview.
it's
Yeah,
not in
it's
there.
in,
Okay, yeah,
yeah, but it's in the book. All 10 pages of preview of thumbnails.
that's amazing. Well, the by the time this comes out, I think it'll be the last day or day and a half of your campaign.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
my campaign, this comes out on a Monday, you said?
yeah, I'm gonna put
On
it
the
out on Monday.
30th?
Yep.
Yeah, so July 1st at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time is when it ends. So if you're hearing this and you want to get in on it, there's still time.
Awesome. And then if it does end, people can still will be able to go in and do orders, right?
Yeah, so I've opened up late pledges,
Mm-hmm.
and so if you do miss the campaign, you can still, like, even though the campaign's over, you can still go place your orders because my books are coming in from Hong Kong,
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna take, like a couple months to ship here. So in that time frame, I'm like, if people want to order, go ahead and order. Because I ordered plenty of books.
Yeah.
So I'll just, once when they arrive here, I'll close everything.
Awesome. Well, that this has been a really great, fascinating conversation, Shawn, and thank you so much for coming on,
Thank you.
man.
Thanks
Um,
for having me. I appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. You want to shout out your socials and all that biz?
Yeah, everything for me is at InkPulp, INKPULP. YouTube channel. That's probably the most important thing to get in on because I have two shows. I do InkPulp Live with Jim Mahfood, and I do the InkPulp podcast with Matteo Scalera, Eric Canete, and Jim Mahfood. And those are all like free stuff. And we talk about craft. We talk a lot about business. We talk a lot about
Yeah,
um, like being an independent creator and thriving. So there's a lot of good information on there. And
there really is. Yeah,
thank you. And through that, we have a Patreon, which gives you some bonus stuff. And then my Instagram is probably where I'm most active. I post on Twitter and TikTok, but my Instagram's kind of like my home base for the socials. And then the most important thing is go to my website, inkpulp.tv, and sign up for my newsletter there. Like when you go there,
yes,
there'll be a pop-up window. Yeah,
yes,
because my newsletter is something I'm really I work to make it something special. So sometimes it's a little lesson, sometimes it's some information about a book I read or a tool I use. I try not to use it to just sell stuff like everyone else does. But
yeah,
now I have a Kickstarter going, so it's all like, hey, Kickstarter, Kickstarter, Kickstarter. But outside of that, it's full of cool stuff.
yeah. And is anybody allowed to pop in and join the Discord as well?
Oh, yeah, yeah, Discord, yeah,
Yeah,
totally open. That's kinda like the home of the Inkpulp community. That Discord is popping.
it really is. I highly recommend any creator to go in there. There's conversations between all sorts of people going on.
Yeah,
It's
it's
really cool.
amazing. It's amazing. So if you wanna join the Discord, just go to the YouTube channel, and on any podcast or live show, there's a link in there.
Great. I'll put links to all that stuff in the show notes.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Um, if you don't mind for 1 second, I'm also going to promote something real quick,
Go for it. Go for
just
it.
for people. At HeroesCon, Power Pulp launched. Power Pulp is a collective of self publishers, self-published creators, and we built in a distribution to it as well. So that is out. People can get PowerPulp comics at their stores. Tell your store to order them. And you can also go on to powerpulpcomics.com and get your books too.
Awesome.
Shawn, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on. It was a
Dude,
pleasure.
thank you for having me. It was great. It was a fun talk.
Yeah, man. And I wish you all the success in the world. And I know that this is already the book is already a success. So congratulations, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right. See ya.
Bye. Join my Patreon to see my work before anyone else, plus score physical sketchbooks, mini comics, and commissions delivered right to your door, and reading my new books, Something Seems Off and Three-Headed Pigman, as they are made. Go to my website to order original art, commissions, and my books, Lost Angels, Spectral: A Showcase of Fear, Chaotic Neutral, and more. Gray Matter Drip, The Art of Chris Anderson is available now from Cosmic Lion Productions. Here are the upcoming conventions I'll be at the time of this recording. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. It helps spread the word. Thanks.